previous session we have talked about the different concepts of the decision making, and in this session we will talking about the different models of the organizational decision making is there. So, types of the organizational decisions making approaches, then the management science approach, then the Carnegie model, then in incremental decision model, then the garbage can model, and as usual we will discussing about the case study research papers and the book recommendations. Now, here when we say that is the stay committed to your decisions, but stay flexible in your approach. So, therefore, we have to understand that we have also talked into the previous session, that is those organizations, those highly responsive to the environment, and then they make their decisions and change their earlier decisions. So, therefore, in that case that flexibility is very important is there. So, if with the period of time the changes into the environmental factors, if organization is required to take a particular decision, then definitely, but the approaches that can be changed. So, what can be the different approaches can be there. So, organizations are composed of the managers who make decisions using the both rational and the intuitive processes, but the organizational level decisions are not usually made by a single manager, and many organizational decisions involve the several managers. Now, problem identification and the problem solution involve many departments, multiple viewpoints, and even the other organizations which are beyond the scope of the any individual manager is there. The processes by which the decisions are made in organizations are influenced by a number of factors, particularly the organization's own internal structures and the degree of stability or the instability of the external environment. Now, research into organization level decision making has identified four primary types of the organizational decision making processes: the management science approach, the Carnegie model, the incremental decision model, and the garbage can model is there. So, first we will see the management science approach. The management science approach is to organizational decision making is an analog to the rational approach by the individual managers. Management science came into being during the World War II. At that time, mathematical and statistical techniques were applied to urgent large scale military problems that were beyond the ability of individual decision makers. Methods for performing these several calculating using trial and error and intuitions are not accurate, and take for too long and may never achieve success. This is where management science came in. Management science yielded the astonishing success for many military problems. This approach to decision making diffused into the corporations and business schools where the techniques were studied and elaborated. Management science is an excellent device for organizational decision making when problems are analyzable and when the variables can be identified and measured. Mathematical models can contain 1,000 or more variables, each one relevant in some way to the ultimate outcome. Management science, especially with the increasingly sophisticated computer technology and software, can accurately and quickly solve problems that have too many explicit variables for the adequate human processings are there. Managers in other types of the organizations are also applying technology to make the more decisions are there. Advertising firms optimizes online advertisement campaign by using the software that can easily calculate response rates and return on investment for every advertisement is there. It is always it has been taken into care of, that is whatever the decisions are being taken, then there has to be the rationale of these the ROI is to be there. Many retailers including the Home Depot, Bloomberg's and Gap use software to analyze the current and the historical sales data and determine when, where and how much to make down the prices are there. There are different ways to utilize the management science. The application of the framework helps organizations create enhanced efficiency in the areas such as the cost, production and the level of the services by solving the different managerial problems. In terms of applying management science in business, there is a 6-step formula for making the most of it. The steps help streamline business operations and create a process based environment for the organization is there. This 6-step formula for the management science approach is identifying the problem and the potential interventions are there, choosing interventions, introducing the interventions, scaling to the interventions and integrating the interventions into the health system is there. So, here we talk about the Carnegie model. So, Carnegie model talks about of organizational decision making is based on the work of Richard Syrett, James March and the Herbert Simon, who were all associated with the Carnegie Mellon University. Their research helped formulate the bounded rationality approach to individual decision making as well as the provide new insights about the organizational decisions. Research by the Carnegie Group indicated that organization level decisions involved many managers and that a final choice was based on a coalition among those managers are there. A coalition is an alliance among several managers who agree about organizational goals and the problem priorities are there. Management coalitions are needed during the decision making for the two reasons. The first, organizational goals are often ambiguous and operative goals of the departments are often the inconsistent. Managers must bargain about problems and build a coalition about the question of which the problems to address is to be there. Now, in this from these managers across departments sit around a table and each person lists on paper the good and bad points about a specific opportunity. This is similar to the pro and con list Benjamin Franklin used for the making the rational decisions as an individual is there. In this case though, managers then share the thoughts and ideas with others and typically find shared interests. The second reason for coalition is that individual managers intend to be rational, but function with human cognitive limitations and the other constraints are there. Managers do not have the time, resources or mental capacity to identify all dimensions and to process all information relevant to a decision is there. These limitations lead to the coalition building behavior. Building coalition will lead to a decision that is supported by the interested parties is there. The process of coalition building has several implications for organizational decision behavior. First, decisions are made to satisfy rather than to optimize the problem solutions. Satisfying means organizational accept as satisfactory rather than a maximum level of the performance, enabling them to achieve several goals simultaneously. Second, managers are concerned with immediate problems and short term solutions. They engage in what Syrett and March call the probabilistic search is there. So, probabilistic search means managers look around in the immediate environment for a solution to quickly resolve a problem. The Carnegie model says that such behavior is just sufficient to produce a satisfactory solution and that managers typically adopt the first satisfactory solution that emerges. Third, discussion and the bargaining are the especially important in the problem identification stage of the decision making is there. The decision process described in the Carnegie model is summarized in figures. The Carnegie model points out that building agreement through a managerial coalition is a major part of organizational decision making. This is especially true at the upper management levels are there. Discussion and bargaining are the time consuming, each procedure are the usually simple and the selected alternatives has to be searched so that we can satisfy rather than optimize the problem solutions is there. When problems are programmed, are clear and have been seen before the organization will rely on previous procedures and the rules are there. Rules and procedures prevent the need for the renewed coalition, formation and the political bargaining is there. Non-programmed decisions however require bargaining and the conflict resolution is required. Now, here we find this is the choices processes in the Carnegie model. So, uncertainty is there and the conflict is there. So, information is limited, we are not having the full information and management have many constraints maybe they are related to the resources. So, conflict will arise. So, managers have diverse goals, opinions, values and experiences there. When uncertainty and the conflict is there, then there is a need for the coalition formation. So, hold a joint discussion and interpretation goals and problems, share the opinions and establish the problem priorities, obtain the social support for the problem solution is there. Then you have to search about to conduct a simple local search, use established procedure if appropriate, create a solution if needed and then the satisfy and that is about the adopt the first alternative that is acceptable in the coalition is there. Third one is the incremental decision model. So, Henry Minberg and his associate at McGill University in the Montreal approached organizational decision making from a different perspective. They identified 25 decision mates in the organizations and traced the events associated with decisions from the beginning to end. Their research identified each step in the decision sequence is there. This theory of decision making, called the incremental decision model, places less emphasis on the political and social factors described in the Carnegie model, but tells more about the structured sequence of activities undertaken from the discovery of a problem to its solution is there. The scope and importance of the decisions are revealed in the length of the time taken to complete them. Most of these decisions took more than a year, and one third of them took more than the 2 years is there. Most of these decisions were non-program and they required the custom designed solutions are there. Organizations move through the several decision points and may hit barriers along the way. Mintzberg called these barriers are the decision interrupts. An interrupt may mean an organization has to cycle back through a previous decision and try something new. A decision loops or cycles are one way the organization learns which alternative will work. The ultimate solution may be very different from what was the initially anticipated, and therefore you have made the changes also. So, when you have made the changes into the approaches, and then you talked about the alternatives other than the previous one. So, naturally your decision that has to be different what has been the initially anticipated. Identification phase. The identification phase begins with the recognition, and recognition means one or more managers become aware of a problem and the need to make a decision. Recognition is usually stimulated by a problem or an opportunity is there. Now, the second step is diagnosis, in which the more information is gathered if needed to define the problem solutions. So, diagnosis may be systematic or informal, and depending upon the severity of the problem is there. Development phase. In the development phase, a solution is shaped to solve the problem defined the identification phase. The development of a solution takes one of the two directions. First, such procedures may be used to seek out the alternatives within the organization's repertoire of solutions. The second direction of development is to design a custom solution. This happens when the problem is novel, so that the previous experience has no value. Now, here, because you are now making this development and identifying a customized solution, so naturally in that case you have adopted the new ways, and when you have adopted the new ways, then in that case it becomes important, that is your previous experience how much it will be used, and normally because you are adopting the new process and procedures, so that will have a very less value. Then the next stage is the selection process after the developmental phase is there. The selection phase is when the solution is chosen. This phase is not always a matter of making a clear choice among the alternatives are there. In the case of a custom made solutions, selection is more an evaluation of the single alternative that seems feasible. Dynamic factors are there, and organizational decisions do not follow an orderly progression from the recognition through authorization. Many problems arise that have a loop back to the earlier stage. These are the decision interrupts. If a custom designed solution is perceived as unsatisfactory, the organization may have to go back to the very beginning and reconsider whether the problem is truly worth solving or not. The garbage can model is one of the most recent and interesting description of the organizational decision process. It is not directly comparable to the earlier models, because the garbage can model deals with the pattern or flow of multiple decisions within the organizations, where the incremental and the Carnegie model focuses on how a single decision is made. The garbage can model helps you think of the whole organization and the frequent decision being made by the managers throughout is there. So, organized anarchy is there. So, garbage can model was developed to explain the pattern of decision making in organizations that experience extremely high uncertainty. So, Michael Cohen, James Marsh and John Olsen, the originators of the model, called the highly uncertain conditions in organized anarchy, which is an extremely organic organization is there. So, first is the problematic preferences there. Goals, problems, alternatives and solutions, or the ill-defined ambiguity characterizes each step of a decision process is there. So, unclear, poorly understood technology, that is the cause and effect relationship within the organization, are difficult to identify. An explicit database applies to the decision is not available. So, the organization positions experience turnover of the participants. In addition, employees are busy and have only limited time to allocate to any problem or decision. Participation in many given decisions will be the fluid and the limited one. Now, here we will see in the figure that is how this Carnegie the garbage can model is that is working is there. So, here we find that is the problems and solutions are there. On the basis of the problems and solutions, the middle management that starts working, and then there will be the two approaches, that is the department A and department B is taken as an example, and there will be the solutions will be provided. Now, here we see that is these the problems and the solutions are there in the middle management. So, we will be looking for this, and the choice opportunities and the participants are there. So, here we will find that is as we have discussed, that is a developmental phase will be there, and here you will find that is the COs that will going for these particular the problems, solutions, choice opportunities, and then the participants are there. Now, here the most important point which is to be noted is that is about the individuals. Whenever we are talking about this particular the participants, then in that case the decision making process that will be taken as a solution by these participants. So, therefore, here the problems, identifying the solutions, choice of the alternatives, that all will go with the individuals are there, individual participants are there. So, if I want to compare the department A with the department B, so it is the individual will make a difference, because the individual, the way he will take the decisions, accordingly the organization will be success or failure. So, the majority of organizations work hard to make their strategic decision making processes as thorough as possible. The McKenzie Quarterly survey has highlighted some of the best practices for the organizational decision making. These practices include balancing a mix of financial strategic targets, long and short term considerations, realistic assessment of the execution capabilities of the organization, allowing truly innovative ideas to reach the senior management. Practices are to be based on the robust fact base. Stakeholders are to share all critical information, and accurately forecasting the market demand is there. So, on basis of this, the aligning an individual's incentives with the strategic objectives defined by the decisions, and the actively seeking the evidence contrary to the initial plan and factoring it in. So, therefore, in that case the best practices which we see in the organizations, and that is the collectivist approach is there for taking the decisions. These are the best practices for the organizational decision making, which highlights some of the finance processes and procedures for the decision making is there. The organizations can incorporate and integrate these practices in its operational and marketing strategies, and these practices are the result of years of careful planning, design and trials cultivated into a number of highly efficient and effective decision making processes there. A global survey performed by the McKenzie Quarterly in 2008 revealed that goal and objectives of the organizational decisions include revenue growth, cost saving, and the improved efficiency or the productivity is there. In order to make the good decisions, some basic mistakes are to be avoided at all cost. For example, if the same person initiates and approves the decisions, this leads to a poor results, which points out the value of the good discussion. In addition, the survey of McKenzie Quarterly has indicated that the organization is twice as likely to generate very poor results as compared to the good ones. If they make decisions without any strategic planning process, then there is a highly need, that is you are focusing on the organizations that is what are the good results and the poor results are there. One straightforward finding is the existence of a strong relationship between the knowing full well who is in control of the execution and the participation of that particular individual in the decision making procedure, and the financial success is there. This is the case study which I would like to discuss, that is about the Flipkart and the Mantra, and the famous fashion e-retailer Mantra was acquired by Flipkart in 2014. The post this acquisition, the top level management by Mantra and Flipkart together decided to turn the e-retailer into a mobile app only marketplace from May 15, 2015. According to the Mukesh Bansal, CEO of Mantra and head of the commerce of Flipkart, this move was taken keeping in mind the customer demand and the users pattern. 95% of the company's internet traffic came from mobiles, and 70% of the sale was achieved via mobile devices. Therefore, it was felt that shifting to mobile app only based format would allow them to provide their customers a more personalized experience through a device that is closest to them, that is their mobile phones are there. Sachin Bansal, the co-founder and CEO of Flipkart, echoed Mukesh feeling when he said mobile commerce will be the most powerful, personalized, intuitive and inclusive market as 90% of the internet consumption in India is on mobile phones. Sachin said that the Flipkart too planned to pursue Myntra's suit. However, it was not ready for such a massive transition, yet too unlike Myntra that they catered to only one category, that is the fashion. Flipkart catered so many. However, Flipkart and Mantra soon realized the blunder they had committed as their sales continued to dip even after the 6 months, while another e-commerce portals such as Amazon and Jabang raced for ahead by the offering their customers multiple access points. The top management expected that the dip in the sales would stabilize after the first 1 or 2 months. However, when what did not happen, they realized that the Indian consumers were not prepared for this shift yet, especially since the transition was so drastic. Talking about their decision to relaunch their website, the Anant Narayan, CEO of Mantra, stated, "We have been humble enough to realize and listen to our customers' needs, and hence we are relaunching the desktop version on June 1st. So, what is the conclusion? Most organizational decisions are not made in a logical, rational manner. Most decisions do not begin with the careful analysis of a problem, followed by a systematic analysis of alternatives, and finally implementation of a solution. Organizational decision making approaches include the management science approach, the Carnegie Model, the Incremental decision model and the garbage can model. Only in rare circumstances do managers analyze the problems and find solutions by themselves. Many problems are not clear, so widespread discussion and coalition building takes place. Organizations can move towards the solutions. Under conditions of the low technical knowledge, the solution unfolds as a series of the incremental trials that will gradually lead to an overall solution. The most novel description of the decision making is the garbage can model. This model describes how decision processes can seem almost random in highly organic solutions organizations are there. This is the research paper evaluating the ethical decision making models, a review and application is there. Now, we have talked about the different models are there. Now, in these different models, now the question arises, that is the what is the role of the ethics and where we can take the decisions for the ethical decision making. So, perspective value of the ethical decision making model is there. The paper explores types of the models in the ethics literature in concert with the knowledge from the decision sciences. Literature to develop a tentative list of the evaluate criteria that might be applied to the perspective models. It then applies this criteria to one perspective model from the ethics literature developed by the Patrick and Quinn in an attempt to demonstrate the value of more comprehensive evaluations. It closes by the considering the future research aimed at the evaluation of ethical decision making models as well as the research needed to validate the Patrick and Quinn model. The findings of this particular paper is that the Patrick Quinn judgment integrity model satisfies most of the criteria discussed in the ethical decision making literature. The primary opportunities for refining the Patrick Quinn model as a prescriptive framework for the ethical decision making are articulating the operations judgment component of the model as a formal quantitative decision analysis and conducting the research to assess the real world utility to the model is there. The practical implication of this particular model is that the essential characteristics of a decision making model is that it is capable of actually making or recommending the decisions are there. So, therefore, it is not only on the basis of the theoretical, but rather than it is giving you a particular perspective, that is how practically you can implement your decisions. Now, he goes on to state that the data to be used in such model should consist of information that is available in the real world is there. So, therefore, always we have to see that whenever we are taking the decisions, then in that case we should be get well connected with the real world and should require calculations that can be reasonably performed. Simon advocates models formed with the practicality in mind regardless of the approximations and the simplifications imposed on them. Originality value. While there has been a proliferation of the research concerning business ethics, little attention has been focused on evaluating the utility of the ethical decision making models. Accordingly, this paper advances theory, research and practices regarding the ethical decision making in the organizations are concerned. This is the book is recommended, the Oxford Handbook of the Organizational Decision Making and the authors are the General P. Hodgkinson and Williams H. Here in this book on the organizational decision making, the author on the has broadly emphasizing on the psychological perspectives. While encompassing the insights of the economics, political science and sociology, it provides coverage at the individual, group, organization and the interorganizational levels of the analysis. In-depth case studies illustrate the practical implications of the work surveyed. The case studies are given in this particular book that will be help you for the practical understanding, that is how to take the decisions are there. Each chapter is authored by one or more leading scholars, thus ensuring that this handbook is an authoritative reference work for the academicians, researchers, advanced students and the reflective practitioners concerned with the decision making in the areas of management psychology and the HRM is there. Otherwise also every manager has to take a decision, and then what should be the approach to the decision. These models have well explained about this particular the process of decision making. These are the references which you can refer for your further studies, and you can find out that is the how to take the right decisions. These are including on the decision making by the McKenzie's article, the structure of the unstructured decision makings, and the how to take these references also cover the about the program and the non-program decision makings are there. These are the other research papers which you can refer for your further studies, and it is suggested that is you are able to understand that is how the research that can help you to deliver your duties and through the with the help of the theory and practice both. Thank you.